People tend to stay around in rural because once you get here and get a feel for the place, it's hard to walk away.
I decided to move to New Zealand for a one-year locum so that I could spend some time with family and kind of catch up with everybody. And then I just kind of never went back to the US.
Hauora Hokianga is located on the west coast of Northland and providing free healthcare to those who reside in the Hokianga. We have our main services based out at Raoni, and then we've got what we call peripheral clinics, which are in areas where the populations can be anything from sort of 300 to about 1,500.
It's small town, rural feel, and a very laid-back place to live.
The population that we're serving is about 7,500 and three-quarters, about 75% Maori. It's well known that they do tend to have quite complex health needs.
This is genuinely a Maori community, and the people have managed to maintain all of those traditions that's been lost in so much of the rest of New Zealand.
Taumata is that arm of the hospital that provides that cultural essence, that cultural understanding and cultural practices.
We're growing native plants that are resources for our kaimahi, our workers who are doing the traditional practices of rongoa. They're making things like balms, pani, massage oils for the miri work that they do.
We are able to work side by side with our doctors, with our nurses, to be able to include these elements.
The challenges that people in our community face are all the challenges that come with living in an area where there's poverty and so much distance that you have to travel to get to anything. My personal preference is to be in more of an integrated system, being able to know your nurse, know your receptionist, and can make sure that you're supporting everything for the patients and for each other. Didn't feel like it made sense to go back to the US where I wouldn't have the opportunity to practice the way that I like here.
What was needed is to make sure that we take services out to the peripheral clinics. The furthest away one would be the Hauora clinic, and so to get there from Raoni you catch a 15-minute ferry ride. What I love about the drive is the beauty. It's never the same twice. Having the relationships with the people that you're actually looking after is something special. You become part of your community. What inspires me is when I see small improvements in people's health. In Hauora, we've got a trust next door. People choose to come there and connect with each other, and they get support from each other. It's like a family. Family is really important to me. Fortunate enough to have my mother-in-law living nearby, who we get to visit on a regular basis. My mother-in-law herself was actually a nurse assistant at the hospital for over 30 years.
The Marakai, our food gardens, are primarily to produce organic food for the hospital kitchen and our patients, but we also provide food for our whare āwhina people, so mental health and addictions, and people who come under our social services. So we're restoring the land and the people at the same time.
You do have to come at it with a sense of humor and an openness and willingness to learn, because you're always going to be learning in a job like this.
A recent initiative by Hauora Hokianga has been the funding of first responder courses out in the peripheral clinic areas. This allows for people to learn how to manage in emergencies when the clinics are closed, and the ambulance can on occasions be over an hour away. To give back to the local community, I volunteer at our local fire brigade. I enjoy the variety of people and that camaraderie within the team. And even more recently, I got to rescue a kitten out of a tree. So now I feel like a real fireman. I would suggest anyone that's had any thought about trying rural, give it a go. For me, what's kept me here all this time would definitely be the people. Having the opportunity to get to know the communities that I'm working in It's precious.